Hello, everyone. My name is Afolabi Olani, and I would just want to thank you all for reaching out to obtain the personal finance tracker that I created for myself. Like I mentioned in the LinkedIn post that I had on at some point in time last week. I've had some experience in financial planning and analysis in different sectors. I've also had some experience in audits, advisory, and so it just became imperative for me to sort of deploy something for myself that I could use to track my expenses. Like I mentioned in the post, I had a foot surgery on my left leg a few years ago. I was jogging and a very large nail drilled into my foot, which caused some sort of growth to happen occur there. To do a little bit of therapy, had to do some treatment for a few months. And during that period, it was exceedingly difficult for me to move the cabs, which was so it became very imperative for me to develop something for myself. This is a more of what I have or what I initially created because looking through the caliber of people, a number of people, and different industries that have reached out to me in one medium or the other, I've noticed that even if you want to deploy, even if I want to deploy a model, it has to be something that will be easy to follow through with, which is why I spent as much time as I could, as I can afford rather, to do this. It took me about a few hours to clean this up, and I can say confidently that this should be very easy for anybody to use, regardless of how good you are or not in using a Microsoft Excel. So basically, what I'm saying is, anybody from within beginner to expert can use this easily. So the template overview of the template, it's designed to run for a year, as you can see, 12 months. Basically, because um, monitoring your finance, it's usually easier to do within a month because personal finance and all that. But then if you want something more comprehensive, like a 5-year forecast, it might be more difficult to tether. So the way the template works, yes. So the first things first, this is your summary sheet. You see that this has a different color compared to every other sheet. All these other ones are supplementary sheets, right? I labeled and designed them this way so it can be easy to follow through with. The darkest color is the most important sheet, which this basically summarizes your inflows, outflows, all the decisions you are making to obtain a loan, investment, interest on investments, how are they, impacting your cash flow. It just gives you a summary where you can make adequate decisions. I'm going to walk you through the template. So the first thing is what I would ordinarily advise anybody to do working with this template is you can take delete this sheet if you want. You see you get an error here, but don't be alarmed, right? You should not be too alarmed. Once you refresh this, all this will come back. So all you need to do is to type or hold rather Control and M, right? And make sure that your workbook is macro or your Excel rather is macro enabled. This is the only point where you need a macro, really, to be honest, because you are extracting data from external sources. So if I do Control M here, you notice that you get an indicator here that shows you that that data is being pulled from the source. It's easier to do this first because You can run other things on the file while this is still loading. So I can then take it to the assumption sheet while this is still loading. The assumption sheet basically indicates, what your different assumptions are in terms of inflation, in terms of growth in salaries, in terms of maybe decline in your assumptions around your bonuses or incentives and all that. So it's meant to be like you can also use this as tweak and get like a sensitivity analysis from your data. This will be updated soon as once this query is done, it will update. Meanwhile, this then gives you the indication of what view you want to see. So do I want to see my analysis in local currency, which is Naira for those of us in Nigeria? Do I want to see my forecast in foreign currency, USD, Euro, GBP? I designed this because, especially now with COVID-19, you notice that there's a whole lot of fluctuation in foreign currency or foreign exchange, which has made it pretty imperative for you as an individual to track your monthly net flows, either in local currency or in foreign currency. Okay, this is so the numbers are here. So I can easily tweak this to USD if I want to see it in USD. Every other thing updates to USD here. The file is formularized, so you will not need to do anything on these numbers. Everything is formularized. I'll show you what to update, and then you can take it from there. So I'm going to bring this back to Naira. Then the last part here is your monthly cash threshold. What this speaks at the end of each month to hold as net cash. In layman's terms, what that just means is once I get my salary, and also once I get interest from my investments, what is my expected or anticipated cash after deducting expenses? That just means salary minus expenses, net cash. What is my expectation? So it's preset at 300,000, but you can tweak it to 50,000. And likewise, it's very important you update this side of the template so you can go from there. This is actually very important because it feeds the criteria here, right? Basically feeds all the criteria here. So if your monthly cash, for instance, let me set this at 600,000 naira. So let's assume that my net cash on a monthly basis is 600,000 naira. So that means at the end of each month, I try 600,000 naira. This indicator will show you that you don't have that. You might need to make adequate changes to your forecast or to your spending habits in order to meet up with your cash expectations. I've walked you through this file. I also left a note here for you just in case you forget. Just hold down Control M, and this would update. Then we have the pay calculator. Most companies structure their payroll the same way. Structure not in terms of percentage distribution across the various elements of the payroll, but structure in a way that that would have your regular BHT, basic housing transportation, which is what your pension is calculated on. You have your other allowances and all that, right? And always structured that way. And of course, a lot of companies have bonuses also that are paid to staff, or maybe a 13th month, depends. So if it's 13th month, you can plug it in here. If it's bonus, you can plug it in there also. Also, incentives, monthly incentives and all that. But note, if it's an incentive, if it's an incentive, always ensure to make this 1 month because that impacts the calculation of your tax, right? So, but if it's a bonus, it's 12 months, right? Great. So, yeah, plug in your numbers, right? If you receive bonuses, plug it in. If you don't, take it out. You see, this sheet is linked to this cell is linked to that cell. So what this does is you can use your drop down here to indicate when you expect to receive a bonus. So if you expect to receive your bonus in October, plug in October. If you expect to receive it in December, plug it in December. But always remember that this forecast is for 12 months. So depending on the start date, you always start counting from your start date. So whatever you're doing, always have that in the back of your mind. It's easier to track 12 months, really, trust me. Based on my personal experience, for personal experiences, it's way easier to really track 12 months periods. It's way, way easier. So yeah, plug in your numbers for the expectation of when you're receiving your bonuses. An amount. This is automatically picked from your net here, right? So you don't need to do anything on it. Just plug in, like I said, just plug in numbers and move on. Now inflows, you don't need to do anything here. Everything is formularized here. Everything is linked. You don't need to touch this. Everything is linked, right? See, this is linked to your assumptions. So as I said, this is very important, right? Depends on what view you want to see. This is also equally important. Outflows. This is where you then need to take your time to plug in numbers. So what are expected outflows, right? This first one basically speaks to your monthly feeding, right? What's my pocket money, quote unquote, for the month? You then have other expenses like your car expenses, your car service. I put feeding here because feeding is very important to me, right? So in fact, it takes precedence over other whatever. You can if it's your car that takes precedence, you can fix that amount here. But food is very important to me. I love feeding, so I'm just kidding. Anyway, so that's how this part works. So you need to take your time to put in all your expenses. So other expenses and then capex. Now for my non-accounting inclined friends, basically your capex and opex, the difference is that your capex rather are items that you expect to use for more than a year, while your opex is items that you consume almost immediately. Like OPEX is your operating expenses, CAPEX is your capital expenditure, right? And as the name implies, it's capital in nature, so you're expected to use it for more than a year. Examples are your motor vehicles, your fridge, your couch, for individuals, not companies right now. I know some companies, depends on their capitalization threshold. Items like that, like the fridge, are usually expense. But anyways, so you need to include your capex and your opex. It's not really any different wherever it puts your numbers, anyways. But it's easier to just demarcate capex from opex, so such that you can make right decisions at every point in time. So that's why this is separated. It's easier for me to say washing machine. Do I need to buy a washing machine? No. Do I need to buy a fridge? No. I separate it from my regular monthly expenses. I have clubbing here for my corporate Malians. And I have a lot of corporate Malians on my LinkedIn, so you can also indicate how much you want to spend on monthly basis. So loan facilities. So this is entirely designed in such a way as to speak to individuals, receiving loan facilities. It's entirely different from your annualized rates. This is more of a monthly compounded rate. How do I mean? The template is designed to factor loan facilities that most individuals have access to, most employed individuals have access to, and that is employment loans, right? So employee loans from banks or from your company. Some companies offer employee loans at 2%. Of course, however, it has to be, I can't really remember exactly now, but I know it has to be more than or equal to MPR or something like that, in monthly policy rate. But however, yeah, the template is designed, in a way that most employees Right, and that is if you want to obtain loans from microfinance banks, from even commercial banks like GTB offers loans and all that, and also NFBs like Red Money. They offer individuals loans or loan facilities. So the first thing you need to update here is the principal. That's your 4.3 million or 5 million or whatever the case may be. Update your fee rates. Fee rate is usually one off and most times added to the capital, spread over the tenor of the loan. So once you do that, also include your interest rate and payback period. Let's say I want to do it for 8 months. You see, this is automatic, it's linked basically. So you don't need to do anything else. Once you do all that, everything is updated. However, two things you need to note. You need to note that the schedule doesn't exceed 14 months. Like I said, being personal finance, most of these things, once it's exceeding 12 months, really, it becomes hard to track. So it's easier to look at your forecast on a 12-month basis. Within 12 months, okay, my salary is this, my net pay is this, net cash is this. It's easier to do all that. So be careful to not exceed 14 months. So I'm going to put it at 8 months. The second thing is your start date. Make sure you choose your start date. So when is your loan facility going to start? August, is September, is October, is November. So once you plug that in also, if I choose September, for instance, it doesn't affect the tenor and all that, but it affects this, which is linked to your funding gap. So the interest and principal all feeds into your funding gap. It's the same with deposits, interest, principal all feeds into, or rather interest in this case, because the idea is that for your inflows, or rather for your investments are, you have to bring the investment from somewhere. And that means you have cash. So for instance, if you look at your month-on-month trend and you see, oh, man, I'm having a lot of cash in the bank. So what can I choose as investment? What kind of investments can I quickly engage myself in? Let's say I have a portfolio of 5 million. And the net or the average interest or weighted average interest, from that portfolio is 6%. Or maybe it's just one investment, either case. Whatever the case may be, just plug in the principal and plug in the interest. Also remember to click your start date and your tenor. So yeah. Okay, so I guess that's that. Yes. So the next thing now is, I think I've walked through everything. And then we come back here, the funding gap. The first thing is, first things first. For your funding gap, you need to fill in two cells, just two cells. First is the start date. I reckon most of us would use September, 1st of September as our start date. It's the beginning of the month. Please always use the first day of the month. Just change the month, but don't change the day. That's because of all the formulas and all that sitting in the template. So once you change this, it changes the dynamics of the template in its entirety. You can see here that, and so the date that I choose, it also impacts on my cash movements. Cash balance also, yeah. Cash balance. So the way you guys can get your cash balance, basically, add up all the millions of dollars you have in your bank accounts, convert to local currency, and bring it here. So yeah. So this is your start balance for cash. But every month, every month progresses, you can have your starting cash here, right? And then change the dates. So for instance, you've done the analysis for this month, you looked at the end of the month, and now looking at, okay, I overspent, I underspent, I have savings somewhere, I can invest that savings. Then once I'm done with all that, I can change this to this then starts September. Then my cash would also change, of course, based on my ending balance for September or for August rather. End balance was 4.9. So I'm going to plug in here. But remember, it's actual that I'm going to plug in. So I'm using focus here. And I'm going to do in September, which is opening balance. Closing balance for August, opening balance for September. So this is updated. We don't need to do much here. So quickly, I'm going to run through something for us to see. Right? And that is, now I have all these many data. So how is the template then useful for me? The template is only useful for me if, as I'm looking at all these numbers, you can see that in September I have this very huge cash shortfall, and I have just 100 and something thousand there, right? First thing I'll just do is look at my total expense. Capex 0, so I'm fine. Expense, even between July and August, my expense increased. Then in September, expense exponentially increased. So I'm just going to look at my outflows and say, okay, what numbers did I plug? So my expense probably increased in between July to August because of two expenses. So you see this here. This is car expenses and this is birthday. Right? So that just speaks to you've identified the source of that huge spike. But that's not the end. Then in September, you have your MBA. Right? Let's even assume you didn't take this loan. You want to pay for your MBA. Let's assume you didn't take that loan. You see that you have a significant cash deficit. 3 million naira. Where do you want to source for it? You know, let's say you have 3.4 million. Okay, fine. You go to the bank. Say, give me 4 million naira. 4 million naira. But because this is the start of the month, but you still have a cash deficit, right? So really, your cash deficit means you need, let's say, you need about 4.3 million, maybe. 4.3 million naira. So that even at 100% and cash balance at 100%, cash balance at 80%, you are fine in this month. Cash improves and then drops again. So what dropped your cash in February 2021? Certifications. Well, you can decide now, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to defer this by 1 month. Let me see how it improves my cash. It does, but it only pushes the problem forward. Which means I may just basically take this off the guys. Since I'm running my MBA anyways, I don't have so much time running up that certification. So that improves my cash flow significantly. You can see. So basically, the template works in a way that, okay, now let me do this here. Let me say this is 600,000. My monthly threshold, cash threshold is 600,000. What does that do? Everything is just red because you are not meeting your cash expectations on a monthly basis based on the parameters that you set for yourself. Right? So, yeah, you can switch this back to 300,000. I've taken you to the Forex, pay. You know, so basically, this is how the template works. It's very straightforward. I've tried to formalize every single thing here such that you require as minimal input or manual input as possible, which is the beauty of it in the first instance. So with this, you know, if you're going to get a pay raise or you want to try to get a different job and you're being paid 5 million naira, 4.9, 2 million, and your cash is going to improve. You can just come here and see the impact and say, oh, okay, with this, I would relatively have a better cash flow, right? I'll have a better cash flow. You see my bonus that I picked for October is already here. So, and this is bonus at 80%. So what if you don't get 100% of the bonus? So this is just to try to show a sensitivity for your net and for your other sources of income. Your salary remains the same. But however, in general, you see that to your cash flow. You can see that as an improvement to your cash flow. So basically, it's a very simple template. Like I said, it's nothing too complex. It's just something anybody can pick up and try to discern and use for whatever purpose that they want. Remember, the first thing you should always do here is to, you don't need to delete. I'm deleting so I can show you that everything is from external sources. All you need to do is to come here first of all and Control M. I've been giving you a note here to remind you. Once you Control M, if you get this error at any point in time, don't worry, just keep updating or just keep refreshing. You can refresh a few minutes or a few hours after, or you can use the rate for the previous day, today -1. You get the rate for the previous day, right? So yeah, that's about it. That's really about it. Make sure this thing shows running background query. It's trying to pull the data source from the location it is currently residing. So that really sums it up. It's like I said earlier, simple template, very easy to use. If there are questions, my comment section is always open. I can answer as many questions as I can. That I can. If there are any issues, please let me know. It's a simple template, very easy to use. Have a fantastic night ahead. Have a fantastic day ahead. Depends on what location you're in on the planet. So either I'm saying have a fantastic day ahead, have a fantastic night ahead. Depends on those parameters. Thank you for reaching out. Enjoy the template. It is free, like I said. So enjoy the templates, enjoy using it. And I hope it really helps you manage your finances better, which is the core of sharing it in the first instance. Cheers, guys.